Welcome to Gulfstream today from Gulfstream Park. Welcome back. I'm Acacia Courtney here today with Gabby Gaudet. We have 10 races on the card today. We did have some rainy weather last weekend, but thankfully that's not the case today.
And you got the opportunity to miss it, Acacia. It was very, very rainy throughout last weekend, and unfortunately we had a lot of races come off the turf, but it's sunny, it's beautiful here in South Florida, and it's shaping up to be an excellent weekend. Are you doing well? A little bit jet lagged from Hong Kong.
A little bit jet lagged. It's about a 13-hour time difference, so it's 12:30 a.m. in Hong Kong right now on the other side of the world. But I'm alive right now, so hopefully give you some useful information. We have some good wagering opportunities today. Right in race number 1, it starts the $1 rolling super high five. That's in any race with 7 horses or more. That also starts the first of 2 pick fives. I'll have a ticket for that. And then race number 5 today starts the Rainbow Six. We do have a carryover building there. That's $29,215 to be exact. Gabby will show you her ticket. And then in race number 6, we round it out with the final pick 5 of the day. So should be a good day there. And let's jump right in to the first race today. It is a maiden claiming for $25,000, 6 furlongs on the main track. Again, this is where the super high five starts, so keep an eye out for that. We do have one scratch of the number 1, Sunny Sonata. Our track announcer, Pete Aiello, will be back later to give you all those scratches and changes. And please also note that Juan Lopez and Joel Rosario are also off all of their mounts today, so take that into account when you're handicapping. Again, this first race starts the early pick 5, so we'll give you a quick look at my ticket. I wasn't able to find a single, Gabby, in the early part of the card. Kind of went shallow in each of the races, but wasn't really able to narrow in. I do think there are some pretty good, some good favorites in the early part, but there is also some opportunity for value. So try to keep it affordable with $36 there. And we started off, as I said, with 7 runners in this first field. How did you see the first race?
Looking at this maiden claiming event, you know, we do have a couple of horses that you have to definitely look at. I like your strategy for the early pick 5 that you just kind of hone in between 2 horses, and I saw it the same way between the 3 and the 4. And there's things that you could like about both of them. I actually preferred the 4 Camellia Diamond, a first-time starter for Ralph Nix. And this was a 3-year-old filly. You look at the mare. The mare won first time out sprinting on the dirt. She actually would eventually run her best races going long on the turf, but she was precocious, so you like to see that. And looking at the work tab for this filly, it looked like they were working her during the summer. She took a little bit of time after June, and they brought her back in mid-October, but it looks like she's had a consistent work tab since then, so I preferred her out of those 2.
I totally agree with you. I had her on top as well, and I do think that it looked like from her last work, you know, they took time with her. It looks like they took time getting her ready. She's debuting as a 3-year-old filly, but we know Ralph Nix does very well with first-time starters. And you also mentioned the number 3, a sale for Kathleen O'Connell, who's dropping from maiden special weight to maiden claiming. She debuted in April of 2015 at Woodbine, wasn't seen again for about 16 months, came into Kathleen's barn and had a couple of races sprinting on the turf. So that's going to be her question too. She's running on conventional dirt for the first time today. But I do want to give a trainer stat on Kathleen O'Connell. In the past 5 years, with horses going from maiden special weight to maiden claiming in sprint races, 15 for 50, 30% win, 26 for 50, 52% of the time in the money, and 254 for the ROI. So I thought off of those numbers, definitely looks like this horse has a big shot.
You have to respect this filly, and I know she's never tried a conventional dirt track before in the past, but Wildcat Airs, they can really run on anything. I love the pedigree that you see with this filly, and on the bottom side too, the mare, she was actually grade 2 placed sprinting on the dirt, and not to mention too, 4 siblings of this particular filly have won on the dirt, primarily sprinting on the dirt. So there's a lot of pedigree on the bottom side as well as the top side that would suggest an okay transition to the main track.
I don't think it'll be a big issue for her, so certainly something to keep an eye out there. And as we move on to the second race today, it stays on the main track. It's a mile claiming $12,500 is the tag for 3-year-olds and upward. And I kind of went with a speed play in here, and we're really totally different on our picks. So I'm interested to see why you had our friend Papa Pig on top.
There's just so many different ways to go in this race, to be honest. And once you get get to these open claiming races, it's just about preference. And the one Papa Pig, I know he does draw to the inside, and he has faced conditional claimers, that 6250 conditional claimers before. But I think he's okay at this distance. He stepped up to tougher company in his past 2 starts in the Claiming Crown Day and the Iron Horse and Allowance Optional Claiming Company prior to that. I just think he was outclassed. But if he can duplicate a performance that he put in against Starter Allowance Company at Gulfstream Park West, I thought that could be very encouraging. You just have to, I think the main concern with a horse like this is his inexperience against open company.
I had some reservations about him, and I'll admit I am a big fan of the horse. He's certainly a trier. He has that late run, and I just wasn't sure if he was going to get the kind of scenario in this race, especially breaking from that rail post. So I did go with the number 2, Fenerbahce, who's a little bit of a price in here. Was taken back last time. It was kind of a weird race for him there. I think he really prefers to be on the front end. It was a 6-horse field there. He didn't really make a move. I just think he was kind of uncomfortable. I think his best shot is when he's on the front end. He kind of gets to dictate what the race is going to be, and he has the speed. I think if he gets the speed again today and gets out front, he could be dangerous there.
He very well could be, and I agree with you. I think his best running is definitely on or near the lead. This is another horse, though. He hasn't quite broken through at that open company level. He faced them last time out, even at Keeneland against Open 75, but his win did come against non-winners of 2 in a year. So that's why I kind of looked away from him, but he is a square price Acacia, and I do think that you need to get some value in those plays. I also kind of looked at the 5 Yukon Sky, and this is a horse who was trained by some really good trainers in the past. You see, you actually see Merrill Scherer a couple starts back. He's 22% on the year. Greg Sacco last time out, and now in the Bobby DeBona barn. He does well with new acquisitions, kind of a trainer switch, especially on the dirt. Limited sample size, but this horse has been effective against open company and open company at tougher circuits like Keeneland.
Well, that's definitely something to like. He actually, I thought, ran a respectable race last time out, but that last race was about 7 months ago in May. It was pretty slow fractions for the mile, and he tried. He had a little bit of a mild run. He did put some kick in there. You went with Papa Pig, 1 Antonio Sano. I threw on the other, the number 9, Dancing in the Heat. It's a very big jockey change to Javier Castellano, and he ran in the Rapid Transit last time as a big price on Claiming Crown Day. Finished an okay 5th, but he actually ran pretty well against optional claimers prior to that, so I think that he will be competitive in here. The third race today is a 6250 claiming event, 6 furlongs. We're still on the main track. It's for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward. And we both went with the number 6, Skippy is Back, who does look to be a speed, but I thought that these were kind of some hesitant favorites in this race.
Yes, and I initially tried to go against Skippy is Back. I picked the 8 Princess Dom on top at 12-1 on the morning line. So unfortunately, that filly is a scratch. So kind of defaulting into Skippy is Back, and she does seem to have the speed. She has had kind of things go her way in the past couple of starts. She's gotten in with a lightweight too, Acacia, and she continues with that lightweight. Her best attribute is her speed, but you see Killing Them Softly to the inside. She's got a little bit of speed as well. So my concern with her is that they might hook up on the front end.
That was a concern for mine as well. I used Killing Them Softly forwardly on my ticket as well, but I think, as I said, I think both of these favorites have their share of question marks. Killing Them Softly should have won last race. She was a heavy favorite. Breach of Duty just went by her very easily in the stretch. I didn't love that performance, even though she ran a pretty good second. She gets an apprentice allowance with Lane Leslie in the saddle today. Also first off the claim and now in the barn of Angel Medina, who doesn't claim that often. So we'll see if that does help and they're able to not duke it out on the front end. The number 1, Jill's Comprise, does look like a late running alternative.
She does, and talking about Killing Them Softly too, going back to her, that she just looks like she needs the lead, and if they do go with her to the inside, she will be hounded by Skippy is Back the entire way around there, and she just has been known to not be able to sustain pressure in any barn she's really been in. So, and also Skippy is Back, I think, kind of has a class angle here. She's been running against much tougher company lately. The 1 Jill's Comprise could pick up the pieces from the inside. She does seem to be kind of a late closer. We saw Venom Girl come back and take an open 6250 race, but you know, she's always a check getter, but she's not always a winner circle proposition. I mean, she's 3 for 42 lifetime. So it's really, once you get kind of past the rest of the horses, you're kind of grasping at straws.
Yes, she's kind of got that always a bridesmaid, never a bridesmaid thing going on. So she was 4th out of a 5-horse field last time. But if the pace does fall apart in front of her, she might be the one. The 4th race today is 6.5 furlongs on the main track, a $30,000 claimer, condition claimer here. And this one, it looks to me, I thought Lucent Lady was going to be the one, but this is a wide open affair.
It is. The Lucent Lady to the inside, you know, I think her hand might be a little bit forced from the rail post position. She does have a little bit of natural speed. In the past, she has done well when she's been on the lead. That's where she broke her maiden. So I could imagine Tyler getting a little aggressive with this filly out of the gate and trying to go there. But there are other horses in here that I think might be a touch faster, including the 6 First Distinction. And that's why I gave her the preference, because I think that she could perhaps be lone speed. She's been capable of kind of dueling on the front end, going pretty fast fractions. I know Empiria is a horse in here that showed speed on the synthetic, but sometimes we just don't see horses transfer the same type of speed that they show on tighter surfaces like a synthetic, the Tapeta, or even turf onto the main track here.
Yeah, that was my question with the number 5 Imperia as well. I did throw her on a little bit further down, but I thought that Lucent Lady, yes, is going to be forwardly placed from the rail. I do think that First Distinction is going to go by her. She was the favorite in her last 2 against Optional Claiming Company, State-bred Optional Claiming Company. If she's able to recapture the kind of form that she showed at this level a couple starts back, she'll definitely be dangerous, but I did think that Lucent Lady might be able to sit just a little bit behind her. The number 4 Scotland Bay is another one who looks like is going to be able to close a little bit into any sort of speed. She hopped at the start last time. I think he just put a line through that, totally look away from that race. She's going to be one, I think she needs to be a little bit closer to the pace than she has in some of her races, but she could be the one if Lucent Lady is compromised by that rail post.
And you're right. I mean, I was looking at kind of different horses that if there is a pace scenario where Lucent Lady goes to the inside and the First Distinction does pressure her, maybe you get a horse that could be with a little bit of tactical speed. And I thought Did Not Mean It to the outside at 8-1 could potentially be stalking off the leaders. And I think the start last time out compromised her a little bit. And also, I don't think she's a 7 for a long horse. I like the fact that she cuts back a little bit.
Yeah, this distance might suit her well. She was actually almost unseated Eddie Castro at the break last time, bumping the start. So I can certainly not blame you at all for trying to go for that. And then we have the question mark of the number 2 Sober on Sunday, who I just didn't really know what to do with this filly. I threw her on there. She looks like she's going to be she's going to be better if she's forwardly placed. She might have had an excuse. There was a little bit of closing bias at Gulfstream Park West last time. She's not a closer. She wasn't able to close in. Pretty poor run on the turf and pretty poor run against Allowance Company when breaking out at the start in Saratoga. Maybe she's just a little bit of a slow learner.
Well, I think when she debuted, I can remember last winter when she was debuting for the maiden claiming tag. I know like she was one of the hot horses or like the tip horses first time out, and she was claimed that day. It looked like it was followed up by a pretty sizable layoff. Off of that layoff, she was on the turf. I just don't think that she's the same horse that we saw first time out, and B, I don't think the pace scenario in this race is really conducive to her running style.
Yeah, so she may run another clunker. I'm trying to give her another chance a little bit towards the bottom of the ticket. But we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll go through the Rainbow Six.
January 28th at Gulfstream Park, an icon takes flight. The world's richest thoroughbred horse race. 12 of the sport's finest horses. One race. $12 million on the line. Watch, wager, witness. Go to PegasusWorldCup.com for more.
back to Gulfstream today. Acacia Courtney and Gabby Gaudet. We're now on to race number 5, and that means it's the start of the Rainbow Six. Again, we have a carryover that's approaching 30,000. Might be pretty well bet today. Gabby, we were talking, it's a pretty tough sequence. How did you see it?
I didn't find a single today, so we're going to have to go a little bit narrow and a couple legs of the sequence, actually the final 3 legs of the sequence, but $57.60 will have to do it for me. We start things off with 3 horses in race 5, a maiden claiming event. That's the 4, 5, 8. As we move along to the 6th race, going to be using the 1, 5, and the 11. That's kind of a $16,000 non-winners of 3 lifetime claimer. Spreading in race 7, I thought race 7 was kind of difficult, an open maiden special weight. And then as we proceed on, our feature race of the day is race 9, and the heavy favorite in there is number 1 Neolithic at even money. That horse is definitely the one to beat, but I was impressed by Kismet's Heels performance last time out at Churchill, so I'll protect myself with that, because I think if you beat Neolithic in the pick 6, you've got a good shot of getting through this and being one of the few tickets live in the final leg.
Absolutely. That horse certainly looks like one that's going to be a lot of singles for people. So like your tactic in the Rainbow Six, this 5th race is 1 mile on the main track, a $30,000 maiden claiming for the 2-year-olds. And again, this starts off that sequence. And I went with a Pletcher horse, but I can certainly understand trying to pick against Last Prize.
Last Prize is good. I don't have anything really against him. I mean, he's dropping from restricted maiden special weight company in his past 2 starts. Yes, he put in a clunker with a little bit of excuse last time. He's been exposed at the maiden claiming level before, and you're going to get a short price on this Todd Pletcher horse. And not to mention, too, Acacia, we didn't show this stat, but from sprints to routes, maiden special weight to maiden claiming company on the dirt, Todd Pletcher's only 1 for 10. So A, he doesn't do it often, and 2, he doesn't have success with it. So I thought with that, he might be a little bit vulnerable. The 5 Thunder Buddies was one I was interested in, especially stretching out to the 1-turn mile today, because he did show speed in his debut as against slightly tougher company, and sometimes we see horses who show speed and fade at sprint distances. They are able to maybe create a separation in the field and carry that speed a bit longer.
Well, I agree with you there. I think that Thunder Buddies is definitely a dangerous one in here, and kind of to back up what you were saying about stretching out here, we'll give a trainer stat on Eddie Plisa Jr. in the past 5 years with horses going from sprint through in their 2nd career start. This is a pretty good number, 6 for 38, 16% win, 13 for 38, 34% at the time in the money, and a positive ROI of 252. Going back to Last Prize, did step up and run in special weight company 2 back and ran a pretty good 2nd, though didn't take any money, was cold on the board, which you do wonder about, and it's definitely worth noting on the stretch out. Not sure if he's going to like the distance in here, but I did think based off of his performance against a bit tougher, he might be a dangerous one. Thunder Buddies certainly worth having on there. The number 1 Hat in the Ring for Lisa Lewis is dropping a little bit in class and going back to the dirt now.
And debuted at 7 furlongs, which is no easy task to do. And I didn't think overall it was a bad performance whatsoever on the dirt. I think this is going to be an okay switch coming back to the dirt. And he's got good bottom to him. And that's kind of what I like about a horse like this, is that you have other horses who are stretching out in distance for the first time, like the Todd Pletcher favorite, like Eddie Please's horse, my top selection. Hat in the Ring, he's got good 2-turn races underneath of him, so you know the fitness is there.
Absolutely. And we both also used the number 4 American Cotton, who's dropping a little bit on the maiden scale, hit the gate at the start, and I think he just put a line through that performance. Also gets Luca Panici up, who had a very good summer and fall and has been able to transfer that into the championship meet.
He has. Luca Panici, Paco Lopez, they've been doing very well. I know one of the top riders, usually in the summer and even in the winter, Tyler Gaffalione, he got off to a little bit of a cold start here in South Florida, but he's picked things up quite nicely, especially on Sunday with the 3-bagger. But American Cotton, I think, is one that you have to kind of use, but I know this horse, he hit the gate and he was bumped at the start. There was really no inquiry or objection posted. Honestly, I think he just got off a little bit awkwardly, and maybe that was greenness in his first start and he can move forward from there.
Has a little bit of experience underneath him. A nice race to start off the Rainbow Six. Again, don't forget about that carryover in there. The 6th race is 5 furlongs on the turf, a 16,000 non-winners of 3 in lifetime claiming event. It's for the 3-year-olds and up, and this is where where our late pick 5 starts, and so we'll give you a quick look at my ticket. I did single, but it was kind of hesitantly so. I also spread in the 7th race, just like you did. That's for the 2-year-old maiden special weight. I think one of the nicest races on the card. Definitely looks like the spread race to me. I singled Made on a Mission in the 8th race, and look, he's going to be a very short price. That's not going to be where you're going to make money, excuse me. But I did also go too deep in the 9th race with the same 2 horses that you use with Neolithic and Kismet's Heel. So hopefully I get past my single and can try and make a little bit of a price a little bit later on. And then in the finale, 7.5 furlongs on the turf for a claiming event in the 10th, went 3 deep, again, $36.
And a lot of people, you know, as handicappers, we try to go against favorites. We try to give creative opinions and things like that. But when you're looking at multi-race sequences, especially in the pick 6 and the pick 5, and you have a low bankroll, favorites are your friends. You just have to know the right favorites from the wrong ones. And I do like Made on a Mission. I think she is one to beat. I think either her or Neolithic are your 2 potential singles in the pick 6, pick 5.
Absolutely. And if you can spread a little bit in those other races like we did in the 7th, definitely a good way to craft your ticket. Now this 6th race here, again, 5 furlongs on the turf. I went with the 5 Very Colorful. I know you had some interest in this horse as well.
Very colorful. Last time out was coming off a bit of a freshening there at Gulfstream Park West, and I believe we have a video spotlight replay of this performance when he was just narrowly defeated at the wire. We can see him breaking from the gate, though. This is a head-on. He did draw the rail that day, and the 3 just was out of control coming out of the gate and unfortunately bumped him. And this is a horse that does have a little bit of natural speed. You can see him kind of compromise because he had to hesitate a bit coming out of the gate, whereas the 3 came over and bumped him. After that, Acacia, he was really heavily sent. He just looked like his hand was forced. He looked very uncomfortable too. And here, I thought Nick Juarez did a fantastic job, not panicking, saving ground to the inside, and he just kind of let the horse go from there. Overall, with that early trouble, I thought it was a good performance and one to merit respect for this horse.
I thought so too, and that is actually why I used him on top. You look at the disappointing performance that he had to back. He was off the pace that day, waited for room, and then when he was asked, he kind of had nothing really to give in the stretch, so a little bit hesitant off of that. But looking at how it does appear that he likes to be a little bit more forwardly placed. If he didn't have that trouble at the start and had a cleaner trip last time, I thought it was a really solid effort. He does have a bit of closing ability. I just think he needs to be closer.
And that was the thing. You look at his back races against slightly tougher company in the past, and his better races were when he was close or on the lead, and it looked like the way Nick Juarez, was a little bit aggressive coming out of the gate, even despite that early trouble. He wanted this horse to be close. So I think a better post position, it gives him more options, and I would imagine he's going to be closer to the pace. I don't know what was going through my mind when I was handicapping this race, but I went with a nice 20-to-1 shot down to the inside. Why not? It's Wednesday, right?
Not?
Let's have a little fun. The 1 Runaway Bull. I really like this horse just because I like the fact that he cuts back to a 1-turn distance on the turf. You go back to his races going a distance of ground on the turf. Not bad performances. 1 1/16 prior to the claim. He was claimed by Vernon Allison from Graham Motion. But the horse ran well against Maiden 25 Company going 2 turns. At the mile after the claim, he just kind of fizzled out against upper-level Maiden Claiming Company. But 7.5 furlongs, his race was actually not that bad. And you look at his races on the main track, Acacia, and he shows the ability to close. Now, I'm not crazy about the real post position, but I do like the fact he finally gets this distance on the turf.
Well, I don't blame you at all for liking this horse, and I remember I really liked him 2 starts back when he had just had some trouble starts. He had found a couple of wet tracks that he didn't really like. He had some excuses in his races. He managed to get a win 2 starts back, and then a respectable 4th last time, having to be wide. He's 0 for 5 on the turf, but as you mentioned, maybe a little bit less distance on the turf. He's never gone this short on the turf. With that surface change, I was just kind of hesitant on him. I wanted to watch one, but hey, if you can take a stab, especially if you're doing those multi-race wagers and you want to try and get a price in there, we're talking about maybe you do single one of the favorites. This might be a good alternative for you. The number 11 is one that we both had interest in, Canarsie Kid, who looks like he's going to be the speed from the outside. I do wonder, though, if this horse runs better when he's drawn closer to the rail.
He very well could. Just by virtue of that alone, usually when you have a fast horse that draws closer to the rail, they just kind of have first run on everybody else. Whereas, especially at 5 furlongs, it's really all about the break. And if he doesn't break well from the outside, they kind of have to spend so much time recovering that it's a moot point when it's all said and done. So inside post positions for speed horses is always, I think, advantageous. Canarsie Kid, I just thought he kind of they went pretty fast last time out.
Yeah.
I mean, they were going 21 and change, 44 and change for the half too. I can't really foresee horses going that quickly in this race, and I just think he's coming out of just better races and he's got good speed.
He does. He's definitely going to be some speed. I do think there's some more speed to his inside, including the number 3 Xanto and the number 4 Monkey Money, who showed speed in his last 2. Monkey Money earned a 90 buyer for his most recent win last time out, where he won by 10. It was at 8,000 non-winners of 2, so he's stepping up. But again, he won by 10.
And that's the thing. Where did that race come from?
No idea.
And usually when we see horses like that, I'm not a big believer in the bounce factor, but especially horses at this level, they're more inclined to regress a little bit off of performance like that than your top level, your stakes quality type of horses. So I don't really trust that last race, and I don't trust he can duplicate it. I could be very wrong, but that's why I kind of went against him. I threw him out today.
All right, race number 6, where Gabby's trying to get a 20-to-1 shot home. Let's see if we can keep that momentum going. In race number 7, 6 furlongs on the main track. Again, this is the race where we both kind of spread a bit. Nice maiden special weight. I landed on the number 4 Hedge Fund for Todd Pletcher, who has a couple in here. I don't blame you for taking Grand Primpy from the rail.
He surely did have a fantastic day on Saturday. We always know when it's 2-year-old day, better watch out for Todd Pletcher. And this 2-year-old colt by Super Saver. And when you look at the pick 6, the pick 5, these are like the worst horses to have to deal with because you're not over the moon about them, and nothing is too flashy about them where you're like, okay, this is a really legitimate Todd Pletcher horse, where you kind of want to use other horses protectively in this, but you have to use both Todd horses. Hedge Fund is one you definitely have to look for. He is by Super Saver. He's a half to Stanford. Beautiful pedigree there. Javier Castellano aboard. But some of the workouts I wasn't crazy about, so the one Grand Primpy to the inside would have to do it for me. He's by Bodemeister. He's kin to a horse named Gig'em, who was a 2-time winner at 2. Rail post position is kind of tough, but I do like this horse's flashy work tab, especially at Gulfstream Park West.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this horse as well. And we want to give a trainer stat on Gustavo Delgado in the past 5 years with 2-year-old first-time starters on the dirt. 5 for 22, 23% in the win column, 9 for 22, that's 41% in the money, and a 362 ROI. So lots of things to like there. I agree you have to use the 2 Pletchers. The other one, the number 3 Egyptian Hero, was a $1 million purchase by Pioneer of the Nile. Same deal though, not the most exciting work tab, but maybe the connections obviously had some high hopes for this horse. Either of the Pletchers, I think, could come out running.
It's kind of strange to see these 2 horses, too. Like Hedge Fund, this is a horse he started his work tab down here at Palm Beach Downs, where at least Egyptian Hero, they brought him up to Saratoga. He was working up at Saratoga, then they brought him down to Palm Beach Downs. So it's just 2 horses that are kind of hard to grasp. Of course, Pioneer of the Nile, he's a prolific sire, a very, very nice pedigree for this horse. On the bottom side, the mare never really broke her maiden. No real notable foals. I do know from the most recent workout for this horse, I believe his workmate was Fact Finding, who did win the Smooth Air last weekend. He was second in that work. So I like them, but trying to beat them.
I agree. I totally agree. We have to give a quick mention of the number 8 Diamond Square, because I was excited to see that you liked this horse as well. Nicely bred one for Patrick Biancone, who's actually pretty much had the whole family on the mare side. So this one, a first-time starter to the outside, maybe a little bit of a price.
And sometimes it's good to have an outside post position, especially in this type of field. There's 9 runners in here, but it's a manageable field, so he can really go where he needs to. As you said, he's kin to a horse named Patriot Diamond, who was a $220,000 earner. Patrick Biancone sometimes not focusing on winning first time out. Their horses continue to develop with starts under their belt.
This one might need a race, but definitely a 2-year-old colt to watch. We move on to the 8th race. This one's 7.5 furlongs on the turf, $16,000 open claimer for fillies and mares at 3-year-olds and up. And again, this was my single made on a mission. I know you're trying to beat her. She drew outside last time, now in the barn of Fernando Abreu, dropping in class a little bit.
And we'll take a look at that last replay that was at here locally at Gulfstream. That was in, on the 10th of September. And this horse was about 3 wide going into the first turn, and I thought overall a great ride by Misiel Jaramillo, saving ground from that way outside post position, going the mile on the turf here. And then coming around the final turn, once again, he managed to save all the ground. Somehow he took this 7-year-old mare, glued her to the rail, and that was the winning move. We saw a closing bid from Little Alexandra, and this mare showed enough tenacity to kind of hold her off. And I do think that you have to respect her, and I don't blame you for singling her. Just with the trainer switch on the turf, Fernando Abreu, he is only 2 for 17, so that's where I kind of took a stand in trying to beat her. But look, it's feast or famine for my horse, the 9, Battle Tail, because we really don't know what you get from a horse like this. I went back and kind of looked at the races that she had previously run on the turf, and they were actually okay. I think she was second one time in a allowance race against a little bit lesser company. Her race at Churchill was better than it looks on paper. You see a horse beaten 9.5 lengths on the turf, and it's never a good thing. But Daddy's Boo took up 6.5 of those lengths, so she was just a runaway winner. And I like the fact that she kind of gets back to the turf under the George Navarro barn.
Yeah, now second race off of the claim for George Navarro. Going to be running against a little bit easier than what she faced last time out at Monmouth. She's going back to the turf. She's going back to the 2 turns. Lots of questions for me. That's kind of why I backed off of her, but it's going to be made on a mission for me. Also to the outside, thinking of Mom, 1 of 2 in here for Eddie Plisa, who's another one stretching out to the 2 turns on the turf again.
She is, and I think that it's a little bit better of a distance for thinking of Mom. You look at her race, even 2 starts back, and it was an okay race. Honestly, she was on the outside. It looked like she had full opportunity to pass those horses. I was kind of dabbling. Is she better closing sprinter? Is she better going a little bit longer? I wasn't sure. I did respect her, though I used her a little bit lower down on the ticket. There's another long shot that I liked in here, the 10 Arthesima, I think is how you say
Artemisa,
it. Artemisa for Antonio Sano. And this is another horse who's been dabbling with turf sprints. But her 2-turn races, with the exception of her last race, isn't so bad. I mean, she won at 33-1, really her only time stretching out to a mile and a 16th.
Yeah, she's definitely one to respect. Her last race was on Claiming Crown Preview Day at Gulfstream Park West, so maybe she just faced a little bit tougher company than she wasn't used to running against. But you could very well get a price in if you're trying to be made on a mission in the 8th. And that brings us to the 9th race, which is our feature today. It's a mile and a 16th allowance on the main track. In here we have some really nice runners. We alluded to them earlier, one of them being the morning line even money favorite for Todd Fletcher. That's Neolithic, who was second last time in the Grade 3 Discovery.
Was second in the Grade 3 Discovery. This is one of the horses that you're either singling in the pick 6 or you're trying to beat in the pick 6 or the pick 5, one of those multi-race sequences. We'll go back and take a look at the Grade 3 Discovery, Acacia. And overall, I thought it was a pretty good performance. My question with him sometimes is really how far does he want to go? It looked like some of his performances going 7/8, going the mile, the 1-turn mile at Belmont were very good, just kind of even here. I mean, it was a good performance. He was facing Grade 3 company for the first time. It at least serves as a good bottom to him, going 9 furlongs, cutting back to a mile and a 16th. And there's no bears in this race by any means.
That was also his first start with blinkers as well. So I think especially coming out of that performance, I agree he's going to be a very short price. He had some turf pedigree on the bottom side, but he does have some dirt sprint really in his siblings. I agree that distance might be the question for him. He seemed okay. He broke his maiden at a mile and a 16th. He tried the mile and an 8th last time. He's going back to this mile and a 16th. So we'll see if the distance does seem to be in his wheelhouse. But I thought the one that would be most likely to beat him, actually, before we give that, I want to give a trainer stat on Todd Fletcher, because this one might just be a little bit of an interesting one to keep in mind. The past 5 years, when they're off 31 to 60 day layoffs going on dirt routes, look at that sample size. That was the biggest thing for me when he takes this kind of
He runs
layout.
a lot of horses.
He runs a lot of horses. That's 217 out of 859, 25% win, 56% of the time in the money. A good ROI for Todd Pletcher's being bet 175. And now going to the one that looks like he might be the most likely to beat him, the number 8 Kismet's Heels.
Well, even Neolithic, I think, reading some of the press releases too, this is a race that they're judging whether on his performance today, whether or not the Pegasus is kind of in his wheelhouse. I know Todd is thinking about the Pegasus with Kenai Stanford. He's got some horses in here. This would be a good one for Starlight Racing. I just don't know if he's at that level yet. So we'll see his performance today. Kismet's Heels is one who transitioned his form very nicely last time out to the main track, and I believe we actually have that video spotlight replay at Churchill last time out. This was a huge performance, in my opinion. He broke from the rail. He took pressure the entire way, especially pretty much from the half-mile pole to the quarter pole. This horse had every opportunity to just stop to dead last, all considering that, because he was hounded the entire way. But he showed a tenacity down on the inside to keep on going, just being defeated a neck. And it looked like he probably needed that race, too. So if he ran that well, transitioning from turf to dirt, just imagine if he can take a step forward off of that, he could give Neolithic a run for his money.
He certainly could, and one horse that knows how to run in the money is the number 10, Kelly Tuff, who's stretching out in distance, did actually break his maiden at a mile and an eighth. His last 4 races have been in the money distance, or in the money finishes, excuse me, so he's gonna kind of get over to take that next step now and get his second career win.
He does, and I know the connections were quite high on him earlier in his career last winter, and he really has been running very consistent performances. You look at Red Dragon Tattoo. I know this horse was a beaten favorite last time out, but he went on to win a 2 other than at Parks, getting a 91 Buyer speed figure. That race produced 3 next out winners. Even prior to that, that race, I believe, produced 4 next out winners. So he's been meeting very tough company. Unfortunately, he meets another tough 2 to tackle in here.
He does indeed. It's a very exciting feature. I think we both also threw on the number 3, Juan and Bina, who will definitely be forwardly placed. Actually did run last in his most recent start. Excuse me, Neolithic finished second in that field, but I think in this field might have a little bit of a danger to hit the board.
He could. He needs to take that step forward, though. And he also, I think, needs Neolithic, Kismet's Heels, Kelly Tuff. He needs several horses to not show up. But because, I mean, his performances are okay, it's just kind of long and far in between with his victories. He's 1 for 22 on form, and there was a time where we thought, hey, he's probably going to be good because he was running well against Ami's Flatter, Deep Sea, Outlash. So some good company lines last winter. He just hasn't broken through yet.
He hasn't taken that next step forward, but definitely an exciting 9th race. As we get to the finale on the card, race 10 is 7.5 furlongs on the turf, a $16,000 open claimer. I landed on the number 2, Compass Stone. You went a different way with the number 9, Seuss,
yes, and I liked his performance 2 starts back. That was at the Meadowlands when he did face Starter Allowance Company. I know he came down here to Gulfstream Park West with just an average performance at a short price, but I think this horse really wants a firm going, and he does have that tactical speed in order to stalk from the outside.
He does, and I think we want to go back and show that race, actually. I think came stalking at the Starter Allowance last time. This was his race at the Meadowlands. He's the number 9 that day, I think. Excuse me.
Number 5.
Number 5, yes. Looking at the wrong one.
Horses there in between, and I don't think he could match the same, or he matched the same stride as My Enigma, who kind of had less of a troubled trip. He just came closing from the outside, and I thought it was a game performance, but you know, can he transition that? Maybe he took a step down off of that 90 Buyer speed figure and just put in an okay performance last time out. Maybe he can pick it up from there. I thought one to use, but I'm not absolutely married to him.
I agree. That's why I had him a little bit further down. The number 2, Compass Stone, I mentioned earlier, is going to be my top pick. Gets a Julian Leperoux in the saddle once again. I like the class drop in here. Ran against $40,000 maidens at Churchill last time. Give a quick stat when Mike Maker and Julian Leperoux team up together in the past 5 years at Gulfstream Park. 22 for 95, 23% win, 48% in the money. Slightly positive ROI of 202.
and it looks like this horse will have a little bit of natural speed to the inside. And Julian Leparoux, he does great work. Last weekend, unfortunately, some races came off the turf, but still aggressive coming out of the gate, and I think that's the key for this horse.
Yep, I think that's going to be the key for Compass Stone as well. So that's how we see today's Wednesday card. Don't forget about that carryover in the Rainbow Six, approaching $30,000. So good luck today with all your selections.
What do I love about horse racing? Everything.